This is David Mould. I'm reading from my book, Postcards from the Borderlands. This excerpt is entitled, South Africa's Only Ally. I moved my bag so the heavy-set man in the business suit could take a seat. It was 8 a.m. at Johannesburg's OR Tambo Airport, and the waiting area for short-haul flights to destinations in southern and central Africa was crowded. The man looked weary, as if he'd made too many such flights. Windhoek, delayed at least an hour, he shrugged. I'll miss my meeting. Where are you flying? Lilongwe, I replied, then added Malawi, assuming I needed to provide context. The man smiled. I was there a few times in the 1980s, never did much business, but Malawi was our only ally in the region. Oh, really? He must have sensed my ignorance and that my accent was not South African. He continued, Yes, we built the place, all the government buildings. They wouldn't have a capital without us. He made the comment matter-of-factly. I did not sense any nostalgia for the apartheid era or remorse about South Africa's foreign aid policy. It was simply something that had happened a long time ago. It is a paradox of history that South Africa's apartheid regime, sanctioned and shunned by the international community, had a friend in Malawi, a landlocked sliver of a country wedged between Zambia, Mozambique and Tanzania. Its long-time authoritarian president, Hastings Banda, was politically conservative, suspicious and fearful of the socialist regimes of other countries in the region. In other former colonies, whites left after losing their jobs, land and businesses. After independence in 1964, Banda wanted to avoid a brain drain. Many whites stayed on in managerial positions in government and business. Malawi was the only country in Africa to maintain diplomatic ties with South Africa during the apartheid era. South African President B.J. Vorster visited in 1970, and Banda went to South Africa the next year. Although Banda claimed that ties would lead to better understanding between the peoples of Malawi and South Africa, it was really all about aid, trade and politics. South Africans occupied senior management positions in leading companies and helped train the security forces. Banda's position infuriated other African leaders who demanded that Malawi be expelled from the Organization of African Unity. Banda responded by calling his fellow leaders hypocrites for preaching unity and equality while oppressing their own peoples and maintaining secret trade links with South Africa. Like leaders of other new African nations, Banda had come to power as a man of the people, and then decided that no one else was capable of taking the country forward. He drove opposition leaders into hiding or exile, and silenced the foreign and domestic press. In 1971, he had himself declared president for life. Controlling the government, economy and media, Banda became synonymous with the country. The phrase, Malawi is a one-man Banda, was coined. In 1968, Banda had announced plans to move the seat of government from the colonial capital of Zomba in the Southern Highlands to Lilongwe, a former fishing village in the central region that had grown to become a trading and transportation hub. The decision not only signalled a break with the colonial past, but sent a powerful one-nation message to a country where regional and tribal loyalties remained strong. Moving a capital is an expensive business, especially for a poor agricultural country with almost no mineral wealth and a growing foreign debt. South Africa stepped in with grants and loans to help build Lilongwe's so-called new city, with its broad boulevards and manicured gardens. The government buildings stand on sloping ground, rather grandiosely named Capitol Hill, north of the business district. Lilongwe officially became the capital in 1975, but there wasn't enough money available to move all government offices, and some ministries remained in Zomba. The parliament didn't move until 1998. Banda did not live long enough to lord it over the first session of Parliament. In the Cold War era, Malawi was a useful Western ally in a region dominated by socialist-leaning regimes in Mozambique, Tanzania and Zambia. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, the political calculus changed, with the West now insisting on free market and democratic reforms as a condition for aid. In a 1993 referendum, two-thirds of Malawi's voters approved the end of the one-party system and a transition to multi-party democracy. In the 1994 election, where voting was largely along ethnic and regional lines, Banda's Malawi Congress Party was defeated. He died in South Africa 3 years later. My airport acquaintance was exaggerating when he asserted that, quote, "We built the place. Other Western donors contributed to the new capital in its infrastructure, but South Africa had a significant economic and political role in Malawi for more than 20 years. Poor countries have limited options, and Banda, like other leaders, was simply taking aid where he could find it. When Malawi's legislators took their seats in a new parliament building in Lilongwe in 2010, they had the Chinese to thank for building the place." Postcards from the Borderlands by David Mould, published by Open Books, is available from Amazon and other online booksellers.